Hello everyone, my today's topic is alkenes. Now however the alkenes they are represented as C double bond C and they have a molecular formula of CnH2n where n is going to be the number of carbon atoms. Now however alkenes they are also called as olefins or the oil forming agents. Now there are certain alkenes which have two double bonds and those alkenes which have two double bonds they are called as dienes. So the dienes they are of three types depending on the position of the double bond. So the first type is our conjugated dienes. So in the conjugated dienes the double bonds they are alternate to one another. But in isolated dienes they are far away from one another. The double bonds are far away from one another. But in the cumulative dienes the double bonds they are near or they are adjacent. To be more precise, the word adjacent should be used when cumulative dienes are used. The double bonds they are adjacent to one another. So now let's talk about the hybridization of alkenes. So mostly the carbon atoms which are present in alkenes they are sp2 hybridized carbon atoms which are attached to one another by the double bonds. So carbon atom it has an atomic number 6, so therefore it is written as 2s2, 2s2 and 2p2 as per the Aufbau's principle. Now in ground state the s orbital it contains 2 electrons, the 2s orbital contains 2 electrons and the 2p orbital it contains only 2 electrons. But it does not contain 6 electrons. Now under the excited state one of the electron, okay, not one of the electron but this electron, okay, is going to get excited and therefore towards the 2p orbital, and therefore we are going to get a configuration like this. Now out of all these 4 orbitals, the s orbital and the px and py orbital, that is 2px and 2py orbital, they are the hybridized orbitals. So therefore when we take these two orbitals together, that's why the carbon atom is going to be sp2 hybridized, because these orbitals they are going to come together which ultimately leads to the formation of the sigma bond, while the 2pz orbital, okay, of each of the carbon atom are going to join together in a lateral way to give a pi bond. Now how is it possible? So we have s orbital is always spherical and the p orbitals they have a dumbbell shape. So there is an axial overlap which is going to come here to lead to the formation of the sigma bond, while the 2pz orbital of each of the carbon atoms are going to come together by the lateral overlap which ultimately leads to the formation of the pi bond. Now let's talk about the isomerization of alkenes. So however alkenes they exist as 3 main types of isomers. So first type of isomer is the positional isomers. Then the other one are chain isomers, and the other one are geometrical isomers. So now let's go to the positional isomers. So the positional isomers they are the isomers of alkenes in which the position of the double bond is different. For example, let us consider but1ene. But1ene, that is 1, 2, 3 and 4. So at the first position we have the double bond, so therefore we write it as but1ene where there are 4 number of carbon atoms. Now next compound if we compare, that is but2ene. So therefore the position of the double bond is different in both these compounds, and therefore these alkenes, they are positional isomers of one another. Now if you are talking about the chain isomers, let us consider but 1-ene only. Now when I take the CH3 on this side, okay, and then this of course will become CH3. So actually I get a branched chain with the same number of carbon atoms. So this is going to be but 1-ene, and this is going to be isobutylene. So both of them, they are the chain isomers of one another. Now what are geometrical isomers? So the geometrical isomers, they are divided into two types. They are the cis isomers and the trans isomers. Now however, the cis isomers, for example, let us consider the same compound. That is, let us consider a symmetric compound, that is but 2-ene. So if we consider this particular compound, we can write the compound as so both these compounds, they are the geometrical isomers of each another. Now this is a cis isomer because the same groups are on the same side. So they are called as the cis geometrical isomers. So this is written as cis but 2-ene. While this particular compound, it is trans because the same groups, they are on the opposite sides of the double bond. So that's why it is written as trans but 2-ene. Now alkenes, they are prepared in various ways. Okay, so it can however be prepared by one method, that is by dehydration of alcohols. Now here the thing is that we can use secondary, primary as well as tertiary alcohols, but there are certain conditions. Okay, so the reagent which is used for the dehydration of alcohols is the concentrated sulfuric acid. Now if we are using a primary alcohol, then we will definitely use 95% of sulfuric acid at 443 Kelvin. Now if we are using a secondary alcohol, then we should use 60% of sulfuric acid at a temperature of 373 Kelvin. But now if we are using a tertiary alcohol, then 20% of sulfuric acid at a temperature of 363 Kelvin should be used. Now how does the dehydration of alcohols happen? So first let us consider a compound, that is butanol. Because if we are counting from here 1, 2, 3 and 4, so at the second position there is an OH group which gives all, and of course this has 4 carbon atoms, so therefore but. Now when this particular compound, definitely we know that it is a secondary alcohol, so therefore we should react it with 60% of H2SO4 at a temperature of 373 Kelvin. Now the dehydration occurs by this particular OH group, and one of the hydrogen atom from here will be lost. So therefore we get CH3CH double bond CH and CH3. So this is also called as the but2ene. Now we can also get another product where this OH group and one of the hydrogen atom from the CH3 is lost. So therefore here we get but2. We don't get but2ene. Here we get but1ene. At the first position, so therefore we get but1ene. Now there's a rule which is called as the Sitzeff's rule. Now as per this rule, more substituted alkenes, they are called as the major products. Okay, the major products which are formed, they are the more substituted alkenes. So if you see here, the alkenes, they are less substituted as compared to that of the but2ene. Because here there's a double bond, this carbon atom, it is only substituted by hydrogen atom, and in this the one carbon atom is substituted by hydrogen. One hydrogen atom it just gets substituted by the ethyl group. But here if you see, it is a symmetric compound, there is more amount of substitution for both the carbon atoms. So they are more substituted, and therefore but2ene is the major product and but1ene is the minor product. Now our next method is the dehydrohalogenation. Dehydrohalogenation of alkyl halides. Now here the reagent which is used is an alkali. But one thing we have to remember is that in the dehydrohalogenation reaction, we use an alcoholic alkali. Now this alcoholic alkali, it can be NaOH or it can be KOH. These are the most common reagents which are preferred for the dehydrohalogenation of alkyl halides. Now let us consider an alkyl halide. That is 2-chloropropane. So in the presence of the alcoholic alkali, that is, let me take NaOH, alcoholic NaOH. Now this is however going to undergo the dehydrohalogenation, that is, one hydrogen atom from here is going to be lost and this chlorine atom is going to be lost, and therefore the byproduct which is obtained is HCl, because one hydrogen atom and one Cl atom come together to give HCl, and at last we are going to get a double bond here. So therefore we are going to get propene. Now our next reaction is the partial hydrogenation of alkynes. So this particular reaction, it involves the use of the Lindar's catalyst. So the Lindar's catalyst is represented by palladium with CaCO3. Now this particular reaction, let us consider an alkyne. For example, let us consider ethyne. So ethyne in the presence of Lindar's catalyst and hydrogen is however going to form ethene. That is, each of the hydrogen will get added up to each carbon atom, and therefore we are going to get ethene. When we react ethyne with the Lindar's catalyst. Now our next reaction is however based on the sodium salts of dicarboxylic acid. So that is by the electrolysis of dicarboxylic acid, that is the sodium salt of dicarboxylic acid. So now let us consider a compound. This is called as the disodium succinate. Now this disodium succinate, it is going to undergo electrolysis, and therefore we are going to get succinate ion along with 2 Na plus ions. Now this succinate ion, it is however going to undergo decarboxylation, that is, it's going to lose 2 molecules of the carbon dioxide, and therefore we are going to get ethene. That is, this particular part is going to get lost in the form of CO2, and only we are remaining with CH2, so therefore C double bond C, CH2 double bond CH2, and therefore we get ethene. Now our next reaction is going to be the Wittig reaction. So however, let us consider an aldehyde. Now this aldehyde is allowed to react with methylene triphenyl phosphine. So triphenyl C6H5 3 times, phosphine and methylene group. Now when these two react together, this particular portion is going to get lost. So ultimately we are going to get C6H5 3 times P double bond O, and we are anyway left with CH2 and this particular portion, that is RCH. So therefore we get it as RC double bond CH2H. This is the compound which we get because this particular portion will however get lost, and we are only left with CH2 and RCH. So we join them together to get RCH with a double bond CH2. So anyway, this is an alkene. Now our next reaction is going to be the Hofmann elimination reaction. Now in the Hofmann elimination reaction, we require a quaternary ammonium compound, that is NCH3CH3. Let us consider this particular compound. Of course, it has a positive charge, and therefore it is bonded to an iodine ion. Now this particular compound, in the presence of Ag2O under moist conditions, mostly Ag2O is very unstable, and therefore when it reacts with water, okay, it will give AgOH. So that's why from here only we are going to get AgOH. When this reacts with water, we get AgOH, and when this AgOH reacts with this particular compound, that is the quaternary ammonium compound, we get CH3N, CH3, CH3, C2H5 with a positive charge and OH minus. And that's why we will lose AgI here. We are going to lose AgI because this AgOH is going to react with this iodine, and therefore AgI will be formed, and therefore this I will be replaced by OH minus, and therefore we get this whole compound with OH minus. Now when this particular compound, it is allowed to react with water, not exactly with water, it is going to undergo dehydration, and therefore this particular bond is going to break, and therefore we are going to get ethene, because OH and one H is going to be lost from the C2H5, and this bond is going to be broken. Okay, this bond is going to be broken, and therefore we are going to get ethene, that is going to be C2H4 plus N CH3 CH3 CH3, that is the byproduct. So therefore we are going to get ethene. So now next is regarding the reactions of alkenes. So let us consider a propene. Okay, so that is CH3CH CH2. So this is called as propene. Now this particular compound, it can react with CCl4, that is the carbon tetrachloride, at room temperature. So when this particular compound reacts with the CCl4 at room temperature, then we are going to get a vicinal dihalide. So what is going to happen is that here this 2 Cl atoms are going to get added to each carbon atom. So therefore we are going to get CH3CH Cl CH2 Cl. So this is a vicinal dihalide. Now if this particular compound, it is going to undergo reduction in the presence of H2 and Rani Ni, then we are going to get propane. That is, each of the hydrogen atom will get added to each of the carbon atom. So we are going to get propane. Now the next reaction is the reduction reaction. It is also called as the Birch reduction reaction. Now if we are doing the Birch reduction of propene, then it is going to take place in the presence of sodium and liquid ammonia with 2 molecules of nascent hydrogen. So here also we are going to get propane, that is CH3, CH2, CH3, because each of the nascent hydrogen will get added to each of the carbon atom, and therefore we will get propane. Now our next reaction is the hydrohalogenation reaction. So in this hydrohalogenation reaction, we definitely will involve a hydrogen halide. Now here we are going to use something called as the Markovnikov's rule. I again repeat, Markovnikov's rule. So as per the Markovnikov's rule, the positive part of the hydrohalogen, that is H is the positive part, it is going to get added to the carbon atom having the greatest number of hydrogen atom. That is, the positive part of the reagent is going to get added to the carbon atom which is attached to the double bond having the greatest number of hydrogen atoms. So therefore we are going to get this product as CH3. So since this particular positive part is going to get added here, so of course the X is going to get added to this carbon atom. So therefore we get CHX and CH3. So we are going to get 2 halo propane. Now our next reaction is in the presence of water. So I'll write water, that is a hydration reaction. Now in this hydration reaction we use the Markovnikov's rule, because here we have the positive part and this is the negative part. So definitely we are going to get an alcohol. So that is going to be propene-2-ol. This is called as propene-2-ol. Now our next reaction is the polymerization reaction. So that I'll show it to you separately. So suppose I have ethene and there are n molecules of ethene which are reacting. So definitely it is going to undergo polymerization. Now on polymerization, it is going to lead to the formation of polyethylene. That is, we are going to get CH2, single bond CH2 with a bracket, that is n times of ethane. So this is called as polyethylene. And this is definitely ethane. So now our next reaction is by the ozonolysis. So now let us consider ethene, that is CH2 double bond CH2. Now ethene is going to react with ozone, okay, which is represented as O3, and therefore what is exactly going to happen is that the CH2 carbon atoms, okay, each CH2 is going to bond with one oxygen atom from this ozone, while each CH2 is going to bond with each of the oxygen atom, and ultimately the two oxygen atoms, they are going to form a single bond. Now here what is exactly going to happen is that this bond and these bonds are going to break. Now this breakage is however going to take place in the presence of Zn, that is zinc, and water. Now whenever it takes place in the presence of zinc and water, so definitely we are going to get we are going to be left with C. Of course this is called as the formaldehyde. Here also we are going to get the same thing, that is 2 molecules of formaldehyde. And ultimately the byproducts are going to be ZnO,